Welcome to the Perfect Your Purpose podcast, where my main goal is to connect with inspiring individuals across the country, allow them to share their journeys that have brought them to where they are today and how they're living and discovering their unique purpose. I am your host, Danica Tramburg, and today I am joined by Mindy. And I'm just so excited to have you on because Mindy is a mindset mastery coach where she basically works with female entrepreneurs to rewire their thoughts, beliefs, and habits to experience next level growth. And I just think that's so exciting. I can't wait to get some advice from this. And I hope that some of our listeners are thinking the same.
Awesome. Yes, I'm excited to be here.
So let's just start from the beginning. I mean, what an exciting and I think rewarding, especially career, helping others and especially females. How did your journey start?
That is a great question. And I just want to put an exclamation point on. It is so rewarding. I believe that every human, and specifically woman, I'm a woman, so I want to, lift that up as well.
Yeah.
That every woman deserves a champion, period. Someone to believe for them while they are catching up to the belief in themselves. And that is exactly what I get to do, hold that container, hold that space. And it just started out of continually being a coach, a mentor, that person that people go to my whole adult life. I was in direct sales for many, many years. I did national trainings. So I was constantly guiding, mentoring, coaching women in some way, shape, or form.
Yeah.
And it eventually got to this place of me falling in love with the brain, how it works, why it works. Also really leaning into energetics and the spiritual side of it, and how does all that come together? Like how does science and woo combine, right?
Yeah.
What's the mind-body connection?
Right.
That led me down a road of becoming a clinical hypnotherapist,
Oh, wow.
learning all about NLP, just all the pieces where I could bring those together and do it in a way where you can understand.
Yeah, seriously. What are some of your main things that you work on with women, or, do you approach them or do they approach you? I feel like sometimes people don't know where they need help.
Both happens.
Yeah.
They approach me, I approach them. Although something that you really want to be mindful of as a coach and as someone who would encounter a coach.
Yeah.
It is not my job to say to you, oh, Danica, here's what you need to do. Like,
Right.
That's not cool. Or unsolicited advice, not cool.
Sure.
I even ask my daughters, I have 2 adult daughters, and I will even say to them, like, are you asking me to comment on this, or are you just venting? They're like, no, just venting, or yes, I want to know what you have to say about it. So I'm pretty good at saying, are you asking for me to come in here? And I do want to clarify too, I really don't tell my clients what to do. This is how mindset works. We will talk about some aligned action for homework because my laser clients get homework that's agreed upon. And I believe you have all the answers inside you. And it's my job to ask the really good questions to get you to see that you do.
Mm-hmm.
So both happens.
Oh, that makes sense. And so how are you connecting mind, body, and spirit in your work?
Well, the body is really just a robot for the mind. And so when we are, which is how hypnosis works, right now, I could get everyone to close their eyes and walk them through a 2-minute thing to believe that they just bit down on a lemon. And 85 to 90% of your listeners would get like the back of their throat and be like, how it gets when they, that's what an amazing connection there is. And so what we get to do then is rewire the brain to start showing up as the woman, start thinking the thoughts, start feeling the feelings, start creating the habits, start saying the words, I am in this new identity that I want to be, as opposed to the old identity. And the body will follow suit with that, period. Like, just like I just said with the lemon, like if we can see it and really mentally rehearse it, is a thing that I use with a lot of my clients. If we can see it and embody it, I always talk about diving into a swimming pool of who we want to be, what we want to achieve, then we can get our body to follow along with it as well.
Wow. So when you're doing like hypnosis, I can't even say it. What is it? I don't know
Hypnosis.
why I literally can't say the word right now.
Well, hypnosis
Hypnosis?
or hypnotherapy.
Okay.
Hypnosis or hypnotherapy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So is that something that's kind of like instantaneous, or do you have to, do it for an extended period of time for it to kind of work on somebody?
No, it's pretty instantaneous.
Oh, wow.
So what we do is when I use hypnotherapy with any of my clients, we have a discussion, 5 or 10 minute discussion about who do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? Like, what's the goal of the hypnosis?
Yeah.
What's the outcome? So I've hypnotized people to quit smoking, to be mindful eaters, confidence, time, to believe that time is abundant, to believe that money comes to them, like all kinds of things for my clients. And so what's the outcome that you want? What are the direct suggestions? So what do you want to see yourself doing? And then we put that right into the hypnosis. And I provide for my clients a hypnotic meditation so they can listen and continue to anchor in all those direct suggestions daily.
Oh, wow. That's really amazing. So you do that. And then what's the other part of when you're working with individuals, what's the other area that you're focusing on?
Yeah, well, hypnosis is it's just one tool that I use, and I love it because I believe also meditation and hypnosis is all self-hypnosis. So when you are hypnotized, you're the leader. I will guide you, but your conscious and subconscious, I only get to join them together if you say so. So all hypnosis is self-hypnosis. Meditation is a form of that as well, where you're really getting centered, checking in, aligning your conscious and subconscious. So the bulk of the work I do is aligning your conscious and subconscious. And I do that using hypnosis. I do it using NLP. I do it busting limiting beliefs, like taking something that you've given a meaning to, looking at it, and really, when did you decide that that's what this means? Kind of a thing. When did you decide that this one's so silly, but it is the perfect example? I think people are going to really relate to this. So if someone in your house constantly leaving a mess, constantly leaving dishes on the sink or that kind of a thing, and you decide that means something about you, that your time is invaluable, they don't care about you, they think you should clean it up, you make this decision, and we decide things all the time on the split second like that. And the next thing we know, we're living out this reality of that's what that means. How angry do you think you start to become? And how much the funny thing is you made it about you when mostly it's probably not about you at all, right? Yeah. And so we get to take any meaning that we gave to something. Confidence is a huge one because I work with women. There are, things that happen along the way that they decide that's what this meant. I didn't get this sale, so that meant this. Yeah. This launch didn't go the way I wanted it to go. That meant this. I got a no here, there. That meant this. We look at that and find more empowering meanings and reframe the belief to something empowering as opposed to something disempowering. And that makes all the difference in the world for people. I do it with men too, people to move forward. Mm-hmm.
I think that's incredible. And I just think, in my daily life, I think of my mom, my sister, like any relationship around you. And I'm like, oh, this could probably solve a lot of conflicts and arguments with your spouse before they happen too, right?
Exactly. Totally. Yes. When you rewire the brain, you get to say to yourself, I don't know if you've heard this saying or not, how we do one thing is how we do everything. Well, I like to shift on that to how we do one thing is how we get to do everything. We get to show up just as on it, just as fabulous, just as however we want in every area of our lives when we start trusting ourselves, casting votes for that version of ourselves, that identity of who we want to become and who we already are. And we just get to continually make steps to open the doors for that person.
That's so neat. So when you're working, I think, especially with females, is there kind of like a reoccurring theme, or are there like a top 1 to 2 things that you really hone in on, or you seem to be like something that is a pattern?
Sure, absolutely. I would say 2 to 3 things are a pattern. One is worthiness. And that doesn't, I work with really successful women, and we still can run into, well, I was worthy enough for this. I don't know about this next, like, who do I think I am? Am I worthy enough, kind of a thing, to go to this next level? And so that definitely, like, that self-doubt creeps in. It just does, we're humans,
Right.
like we're human. So that's one thing, the worthiness comes in there. And another one I see is we live in a masculine, and I don't mean male, I mean masculine, feminine energy, right? We live in this very hustle, grind, don't get any sleep, all of which, in my opinion, is garbage and like is killing us, right? You get to have a soul aligned business. And so getting out of that doing in order to feel validated and moving into being and being validated in yourself, from yourself, is a really big one to move into. That's a big shift. And I am continually working on that with clients, and I work on it with myself. The reason that I'm so good at it, is because I was very comfortable in my masculine energy for a really long time, and it was burning me out. Like it just, we deserve that harmony of finding the places where we get to bring in more feminine, to be in more flow. And again, not male, female, but masculine, feminine, like that, just that beautiful flow of not always just grinding it out. But like, how does this get to be easier? Because it does,
and that one thing you said, just to like your second point on changing it from like results driven almost to yourself, and being, you are enough, and like being satisfied and just, going every day. Because I think that sometimes is overlooked. And I know I personally, like, I've always kind of had that achiever personality where it's like, and I think it started when I was young. So, you're rewarded because you played well in your basketball game, or you got straight A's, all of those things that we're kind of taught in our culture are good. And it's kind of addictive. Like you're, achievement, and you're like, I'm doing well. And like, this is that, like, your validation makes me feel good. And I know that I'm doing well, but there are times in life where you're not always going to be like on this high of this huge achievement you accomplish. And I know that personally. Like, I competed at Miss USA, and that was huge. I mean, huge. And then I'm like, okay, now what?
Exactly.
I'm only, it was in my early 20s, and I feel like I did the biggest thing ever in my life. Like, what could beat it? Now what's going to happen? So I think that's interesting.
Thank you for being so transparent and authentic in that. Where we get caught is in this results driven, outcome based. It's very surface level for us. And so there's the constant next, right?
Yeah.
What I guide my clients to, and I did not come up with this on my own. I highly recommend reading Atomic Habits by James Clear. And I've taken lots of James's practices and brought them into my own and morphed them for what works for me. What's essential to get off that hamster wheel is changing your identity. And so, okay, there's, goals, that's an aim, that's a purpose, that's a direction. That's awesome, right? Like we need those things in our life. After goals, higher level thinking of that is an outcome. An outcome is what actually happens. That's the results, right? You can have the goal to be Miss Anybody You Want.
Yeah.
Does it really happen?
Right.
Does it really, when it does, what is the outcome? What are the actual results? Past that, we've got systems that we get to build in order to make achieving the results that we want more consistent. So like when something's working, right? Like, okay, in all transparency, before we started, you said I got to let the dog out so that I don't have to do it during the podcast.
Yeah.
That's a system that you know because
Yeah.
you experienced the results of not doing it,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
So you've brought in this system that way. So we've got results, goal, outcome, then we've got systems. Now, the next level of that, which is where I really take my clients to, is identity.
Mm-hmm.
Who are you becoming and being as the podcast host who knows that she lets the dog back in before she starts? It's a whole next level.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at your journey, right,
Mm-hmm.
to the pinnacle of achievement, you get to step back and see who you became along the way. You became a woman who knows how to go after and win any title.
Yeah.
I bet, if you step back and look at it. So the reason that we want to be mindful of just having results-based outcomes is because it's then what, then what, then what.
Yeah.
When we are embodying the woman who thinks like, behaves like, then we get to say, this is a great milestone, and there's so much more on my journey from here. Because now, so we don't want to read one book. We want to be readers.
Yeah.
We don't want to run one race. We want to be runners, that kind of thing. We want to embody it in our identity and let that identity expand. So for you, growing past that particular level of identity to something even greater, for when that's not an option anymore.
Yeah.
Right. When that particular, I'm going to guess that between there's a certain age range for miss anybody, right? So when you're no longer that and or married, then there's a Mrs., right? That you get. So we switch, we grow our identity. The other point of our identity is we don't want to pigeonhole it either to only being a runner. This is a really great example, because when we're just a runner, and then like me, I was a runner and got injured, and all of a sudden I couldn't run anymore. And it was like, who am I? What am I going to do? Like, there's this whole sort of, and it took me a while to say, wait a minute, you're more than a runner, you're an athlete. Like, and running is a great way to move your body and feel really good and embody an athlete. And there are lots of other ways. And so that's when we want to make sure that our identity is a growth identity, just like a growth mindset, and not something that we've pigeonholed ourselves into that we can't get out of.
That makes so much sense. And I think too, when you say identity, I think oftentimes people will make their identity their job title, or I don't know, that's just the first example that pops in my head. Totally. But how do you keep, how do you explain to someone that their identity isn't, what they do at work or their worst mistake or, any of those things?
Right. Well, that's rewiring your brain, because they've decided, right? Just like we talked about before, we just make these decisions, and they've just decided that being a, VP of marketing for XYZ company is how they are validated, is why they're worthy. And so there's some rewiring that gets to happen in there, and some decisions about where am I going to let the proof in that doesn't make me worthy or validated, that I already was before I had this job, and that I will be when I'm not in this job anymore. And this is a practice as well. Our brain deletes, distorts, and generalizes based on what we believe. And so if we believe that we are validated and worthy only because we have this job title or this position, then our brain will say, yep, you're right, and let me prove it to you over and over and over again. And so it will literally delete or distort anything that's coming in for you that shows you a different way, because you can only take in so much, like 5 to 9 bits of information, like, which there's about 60 to 80,000 bits that come in at you at one time. And so your brain does this beautiful filtering job so that your head doesn't explode, right? And your brain is so beautiful and amazing and automated that when you think a thought habitually and then you say, I am, you create habits to prove it. So here's again where that delete, distort, and generalizing comes in. I am, this one's a really good one too, like I am messy, or I am a terrible time manager, or I am overwhelmed, all things that no one's invalidating those experiences. I would say to you, they don't have to be the core of your being. They can be something that you experience, hopefully less than more. And you don't have to hang your freaking hat on them, right? And we're so used to doing that. Think about the person that you know that says like, oh, I'm terrible with this, or I'm a squirrel. I get, my attention go. Yeah, they are. And they have habits that facilitate it in a really easy way. If you also think about the person who works out regularly, or, has a goal to read so many books a year and does that, it's because they not only think habitually about it, right? Like how great they feel when they do it and all the benefits that come from it. They also say after I am, these are some of the most powerful words that we speak, right? And so when they're empowered words, I am a woman who loves to read, and therefore I'm going to read 12 books this year, 25 books this year, right? Then we create habits to do that. And it's the same thing with I am the person who loves to feel good in my body. And so I'm going to create habits that prove that to myself, just like I will, because the brain automates, to prove to myself, I am overwhelmed. I am a terrible time manager. I am, the things that don't necessarily empower us.
That makes so much sense. And another thing before we close out today, I love talking about purpose on this podcast, and everyone's is so different. And how does purpose and what you do on a regular basis coincide? Because I feel like it has to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. My purpose, and I believe that our purpose shifts continually in the way that we show up, right? Like we can have a purpose in seasons of life, as you have experienced in a season of your life, what purpose was, right? And continue to experience. And the same for me. That purpose for me gets to embody guiding women to a soul-aligned business, an extraordinary life. The way that they get to do that is by purposefully, like, checking in with their thoughts and their habits, by taking them captive. And instead of guilt and shame and judgment, which we're really prone to do, they get curious. And so my purpose then, in a nutshell, is to have women get curious about the what and the when and the how of their lives, so that they can start to create and achieve and become whatever they want.
I love that. That's so motivating and inspirational, and that's awesome. So where can people find you online, follow your journey, or, maybe they have questions themselves, or they want to reach out to you because they want your help?
Absolutely. So I'm everywhere at Mindi Huebner, MindyHuebner. I'm sure you have show notes or something like that, where they can get that. I would invite everyone I have a quiz, a really fun goal getter archetype quiz. As you know, purpose also involves goals, aims, directions. How do we get to fulfill our purpose? So this is a really fun quiz to take, and it's at mindyhuebner.com/goal quiz. And I would invite them to take that. And it's a fun result that they get. Personality quizzes are always really fun.
Yeah, I
It's
love
not
that.
as fun as, what kind of potato chip am I, or what Disney princess am I? But it's fun for me because you get to see how your brain works and how you're showing up right now, and you get to get curious. So yeah, I'm on Instagram too. It's my favorite place. I'm on LinkedIn, which is where we met.
Yeah.
So yeah, Mindi Huebner everywhere.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you.
And for any of our listeners today, you can get the Perfect Your Purpose podcast, and specifically this episode, anywhere you stream podcasts.